many fans you are in the chat.
All right, everyone, welcome back to MDG Media. This is EUROTOUR stop number 3, the Krokhol Open, round 1, back 9 of this MPO feature card. I'm your host today, Nate Perkins, joined here with my friend Elias Luukkonen.
Hello guys, very nice to be here looking at this back 9. Let's see what these players can do on the back 9. Although we did not see incredibly hot scores from the card on the front 9. Paul McBeth at 3 under, which is a decent score. Øyvind at -1 and Jakub and Silver both at +1, really trying to make a change on that on the back 9.
Yeah, I would say the Krokhol disc golf course might be one of the hardest courses that you're going to see all year on the EUROTOUR. There is OB on nearly every single hole. Starting the back 9 off with this downhill par 3, 126 meters, but it descends about 15 meters from tee to green, so it probably plays closer to 100 meters. What do you think?
Yeah, I think about 100 meters, and on this hole you really have a hyzer on either side, or you can also go straight. Looks like Paul is actually going for the straight shot here, but many players are looking forward to put a hyzer over those right side trees. This straight shot is pretty well set up, especially if there's not a lot of headwind, as there usually is on this hole. But Paul is a little bit short. You can see the hillside really pulling him towards the basket, even with the flat shot ending up quite close, actually in circle 2 there.
Yeah, looks like the wind was kind of down. It was definitely a strong headwind earlier in the day, and Øyvind going with this huge hyzer. This is super risky, but definitely plays, and he loves that hyzer angle. He spikes that stiletto into the bullseye.
Yeah, that's a great shot, and a very scary shot, as you said, because if you hang it out too far wide, you're gonna be OB early and still have about 80 meters left to the basket after the OB. Jakub looks a little bit wide here. I'm a little bit worried about this shot right here. But he does just barely come back safe. That's great.
Yeah, that is monumental to make it back in bounds, because like you said, if you don't swing it back in, you're pretty much rethrowing the hole from down and to the right. And this is a somewhat popular play, this forehand here. Looks like the wind is picking up a little bit for Silver. Oh, and he's just going wide hyzer. This takes a lot of power. And he's safe, just barely enough.
I think the wide hyzer forehand is actually one of the best plays you can have on this hole, because, as we said, the hillside is pulling your disc to the right, so you just have to hang it out wide, and it's pretty much automatically going to end up towards the basket. Paul from circle 2 does make it. That's a great putt, going downhill from 15 meters, dead center. Perfect.
Running it back here for the GOAT. Just perfect pace. That thing might have made it without any chains. All right. Silver puts it on the pole. We're looking at a potential star frame here. Jakub can connect from 8 meters. Pushes out the left side.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We did see some missed putts from Jakub, especially from circle 2 on the front 9. Didn't quite make a lot of those long putts, as he usually does. But that's a great birdie from Øyvind, and Jakub, unfortunately, with the only par on this hole. But that's a great grouping. It's really rare to see 3 birdies on this hole.
And we are walking over to a really difficult par 3, probably the hardest one on the back 9. It is 149 meters. It plays just slightly downhill, so probably plays closer to 140. But the difficulty here is the rough. If you find yourself right or left, these tiny little birch trees are probably some of the most difficult rough in the game of disc golf. There's just no way to advance, is there?
Yeah, very true. They are not very... That single tree a single birch tree is not very thick, but there's so many of them that you're almost having an impossible time finding a gap. On this hole, you have two routes. You either have the huge hyzer or this slightly hyzer flip to turnover shot that Paul is going for. Looks like he hits it perfectly and is pushing towards the basket, just fading out early. As you can see, that distance of almost 150 meters kicking in. Really difficult to keep that disc going straight.
And that was a beautiful shape there from Paul with his flippy force, and Øyvind just works that hyzer high and swings it back in, but he's going to have a series of small birch trees in his way for his birdie putt.
Yeah, the hyzer is really more of a safe play, taking the gap out of play and hopefully fading it over these birch trees to the left, as Silver has done perfectly. He's at about 20 meters, and as usual on this course, there's a big slope on the right side of the basket. So if you're left and short, there's likely no run at the basket unless you can shape the hyzer to match the flat side of the green.
And Jakub just pulling on that one a little bit. He's just a little off today, Elias. And we're going to see just how, I mean, look at that rough guy. That is so gnarly.
Yeah, and you can see the huge crowd that we had today. As mentioned on the front nine, Øyvind said that it's the biggest crowd he has seen in Norway ever. So that's really shows something about these big players and this big tournament, as we see Jakub with a great approach there after the errant drive.
Yeah, and Øyvind just pitching that one up. Paul for a rare birdie here on the 11th.
Almost gets it. This is a very rarely birdied hole. I believe there was only 2 birdies throughout the whole day on this hole. One of them on my card, actually, Morten Brenna, parking the hole. He was only 1 meter away, so huge shout out there. And yeah, as we see these players cleaning up for the par.
Yeah, so we got a pretty decent walk over to 12 gold. You can wrap around the corner, or you can kind of climb up this hill to this tee pad. And this is downhill par 4, one of the longer ones, 267 meters. It descends probably 10 meters from tee to this fairway. So this tee shot, the distance isn't really the issue, it's the placement. You want to push it as close to the front edge of that OB as possible to make this second shot, which kind of plays back up the hill a little bit, that much easier. And it's up on this little ridge here, so there's definitely rollaway potential off on that right side. And there's kind of one like tree that comes out of the middle of that pond that makes you shape something on your second.
Yeah, very true. This is a tricky hole, but a very beautiful hole. I think one of the nicest holes to play in the sport of disc golf, as we see Paul going for the usual hyzer route towards the right side woods, unfortunately fading out early and skips into the left side of the fairway. That's really not a birdie position, but hopefully a par position.
Øyvind hangs that one wide, but he's leaning on the stability of his discs as he typically does, and pretty good position. I would say that's 120 meters off the tee. So there's room to push it further if you want, but that's in decent spot.
For sure. Actually, if you want to push it as far as possible, the pond is at about 170 meters. So you really have a lot of room to play this hole long. And you saw Silver fading out way early, but hits the hillside and actually rolled down to the fairway. So that's still a good position for him.
Yeah, Jakub keeping that nose angled down, but a pretty conservative shot from him as well. Probably going to have somewhere just over 120 meters into the green. And this is just a beautiful hole to play, as you said, Elias. And I was asked to compare it to a course in the United States, and the closest thing I can come up with is the Fox Run course up in Vermont, the home of the 2018 World Championships and this year's Worlds.
Yeah, certainly looks very similar, even though I haven't played the course. As we saw, Silver going with an amazing forehand, getting it just outside the circle from 130 meters away. That was a great shot, and Jakub pulls it just a little bit to the right there, but he's probably going to have an easy time getting his par, but no birdie look there.
Wow, and McBeth forced to go with the forehand Annie. And just a little too much angle out of the hand on that one. He finds the guardian trees on the left.
This is perfect position from Øyvind. Able to go with the straight fairway driver shot. Unfortunately slips it out early to the left. That looked like just a bad release there. He was really in perfect position, but still a pretty easy par from there. You can see really if you get the great drive on this hole, it takes a lot of the teeth out, since you have a pretty much quite an open shot to the green, only with that one tree in the middle of your line.
Oh, plenty of power on that putt. Just needed to flatten it out for the briefest moment. Let's see if Silver can connect here after that nasty forehand.
Let's see. He's got that great spin putt, and he makes it. That's one of the most insane birdie saves I have seen throughout the whole year. That was incredible. Let's take another look after that massive forehand. Errant drive, massive forehand, and even a bigger putt from 20 meters almost. That was incredible.
Silver lot. Showing why he was picked for the feature card. He's having a great season so far. He's really worked on his game quite a bit. I feel like he's a new player.
Yeah, especially I feel like that backhand looking stronger than ever. And another solid putt from him. He's also putting good. Already has 2 really good putts on this back nine. As we see Jakub putting it in for the par. It's a common score in this hole since this is not the most dangerous hole on the course, so many pars are to be seen on this hole, but the birdie is also really difficult, as we saw Silver having to throw an incredible approach and still left out with a long putt.
We've got another decent walk up the hill to the tee pad of hole 13. We're headed back into the dense pine forest. This one is reminiscent of hole 3 on the front. You've got a series of early gaps, maybe 2 meters across at the tightest here late in the flight. And then it kind of opens up here. And it's slightly uphill, so it probably plays closer to 112 meters. A little bit of rollaway potential on the screen, but it's relatively safe to run from down below. But this is another one of the par 3s that you do not want to miss the early gap, or it's likely going to be a bogey.
Yeah, for sure. And anything out of the gap is pretty much good, as we see Silver going with a powerful forehand, turning it over, and actually goes a little bit long left of the basket. I feel like it is rare to go long on this hole, since you're trying to throw a bit of a softer shot, hit the gap, and then there's this slight uphill rise at the end of the shot. As we see Paul actually missing the gap, and he's kicked far left. Let's see if he has anything from there.
Yeah, this one is pretty demanding because you do have to hit this powerfully, and it's just such a tight gap. It's just one of those holes that kind of makes you tense up a little bit.
Yes, as we saw the perfect backhand flip to turnover shot from Øyvind. That was beautiful, and Jakub also hitting the gap just perfectly. So everybody besides Paul hitting the gap, and which is pretty impressive. It's, as we said, one of the tightest gaps you can even find on a professional disc golf course.
Oh, this is not an easy spot. Looks like he does have an early gap. Whew. Generates a ton of power. Going Athena here, and that is just a money scramble.
Yeah, that was incredible. I was actually watching that shot live and it was just perfect. As we see Jakub from circle 2, giving it a good bit, but you can see that sloped green really getting the best of him. He's rolling to the back edge of circle 1 there. Silver with another great putt. His putter is absolutely on fire right now.
Yeah, he's just completely turning around his round here on the back. See if Øyvind can follow that big putt up. Sure does. Left side, he's in for the birdie, moves to 3 under par. These guys are making up a little bit of ground on Mr. McBeth.
Yeah, really making easy work of this back 9, which I believe is the easier of the 2 nines, but it's certainly not easy still. This is a very difficult course and a lot of trouble to be had, as we saw from Paul hitting one of the first trees, but incredible scramble there from Paul. So 2 birdies and 2 pars. That's a really good score on this hole.
Latitude 64, the boys down here just finished checking out the telemetry you have, and everything is A-OK.
Hey, Jonathan, catch. Huh?
Jonathan, we're getting an anomalous critical failure on your suit. Could you please confirm status?
Sorry, man.
Warning, low oxygen.
All right, we're headed to the first of a couple par 3s. Some of the easier holes on the course. This one's just 96 meters. Beautiful setting for the tee. They're just surrounded by these rocks that are covered in the moss. The ferns are just unraveling all around you, and you're throwing over this pond to start. Most players are going to throw a right hand forehand flat over the water. Some players are going to go with a straight mid-range that kind of drifts over to the right just a little bit. And there is OB that kind of wraps around the pin. There's also some OB to the right side if you really fade out or turn something over too much.
Yeah, this is a very touchy hole. You really have to watch your angle of landing so that you don't roll down to the left. As we saw Silver going with a very powerful forehand. Unfortunately, it turns it over to the left side, OB there.
Yeah, and that's an unfortunate mistake from Silver after birdieing 3 of the last 4.
This looks to be fading out a little bit early, almost challenging that right side OB, but he's outside the circle there and one of the scariest putts you can find on the course with the OB and water behind the basket from that angle. And Paul actually going with this very touchy hyzer to flip up backhand, which you can see he's got an incredible angle control of the disc, landing it perfectly flat, just 5 meters from the basket. That was really just perfect.
Yep, that was a Luna from Paul, and Jakub going with the forehand here. And that looks overcommitted, but using the stability to climb back in. Oh, and it must have rolled after it hit the front side of that hill. Oh, and it looks like Silver actually didn't cross, and he's going to throw from just in front of the pad here.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate. I thought he crossed much further, but this is suddenly a very difficult bogey save for him, even. And that's a decent approach, but still leaving a very scary putt there. And, well, as we saw in Jakub's shot, really important, the angle control. He came into the hill with a lot of hyzer angle, really challenging the grade of the hill and rolled down and paid the price of OB for it. Let's see if he can save the par as he does. Great putt. And, yeah, that's just unfortunate, but really taking that roll-away chance with the overstable forehand on this hole.
Death putt for Silver. Oh, pulled it a little, but finds the right side chains right there, and that's a big moment in his round to card that single bogey after the unforced error off the tee.
Yeah, for sure, and you can see these latitude baskets catching really well even from the far right side, since the chains are a little bit wider and looser than than most baskets that we play on. And a great birdie from Paul there, really making easy work of this hole with that touch backhand shot.
All right, super short walk to the tee of 15 and another softball hole here for this field. It's just 106 meters, but it is a really beautiful hole. You're throwing back over this pond again. Basket is sitting up on this little hill with this just exposed rock face right here. If you hit the rocks, you're going to be OB and you're proceeding to a drop zone. And there is rollaway potential deep into the right of this hole. A lot of players are going to be throwing a forehand. Perfect forehand distance just to chip it over there on hyzer.
Yeah, very true. This hole really gives you the freedom of choice. You can almost throw any sort of shape here. Paul going with also a usual slight turnover backhand. Looks like he's going with the same Luna as on the last hole. Really good line there. Leaves it just a bit short, about 6 meters, but well inside the circle there.
Yeah, Paul really showing you where he's at with his game right now, choosing to go with the touchy turnover putter, and he really displays a lot of touch with that shot. Øyvind, just checks up there with the stiletto. He'll have 5 meters for his birdie.
Yeah, that's a pretty okay angled putt at the basket too, since he's not looking directly at the huge drop-off on the right side of the basket from this angle. Jakub seems to be turning this slightly more than he would like to the right. He just stays on the edge of the hillside, inside the circle there, but on this hole you really want to be either parked or just on top of the hillside, because if you fade to the right or turn to the right, you can easily go far ways out from the basket.
And Silver straightening that same disc out that he just misfired with on the 14th. And he's going to have a slight death putt here again. And that's unfortunate for Silver to be heating up, and then he goes bogey par on, I would say, the 2 easiest holes on the course. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. This is, in my book, certainly the easiest, at least the easiest par 3 on the course. As we saw, Jakub making great putt from the edge of circle 1 there. And Paul also, pretty routine putt from there. He's already 6 under on the round, making a charge for that lead card or even the lead spot.
Yeah, Øyvind's putting together a good round. He moves to 4. So we've got a decent walk through the woods now to get to the tee of hole 16. And it is a demanding par 5 here. This tee shot is probably the hardest shot on the hole and the most important one. You're throwing out over the out of bounds. There's OB left in that wood line. There's OB right that we can see with those stakes. You really want to throw something like 120, 130 meters off the tee, just short of those rocks. And then you really need to get around this second tree and up onto this flat zone to where you can see the pin and approach on your third. You can see the OB kind of chokes right here, 3/4 of the way up this hole. And then this is another one of the holes that just has so much rollaway potential. And then there's actually OB deep and left of this pin. So you really don't want to be putting from distance here on hole 16. Monster par 5, really beautiful hole.
Yeah, one of the best par 5 holes I have actually ever played. Off the tee, just really important to stay clean, as you said. Anything on the fairway is pretty much good here. As we see Paul going with an understable disc, trying to stay out of the left side woods, but actually finds the right side OB. That's an unforced error. It's a pretty wide fairway here, and you have some room to fade to the left here. As we see Øyvind going with more of a hyzer type shot to the left side.
Yeah, Øyvind sees Paul's mistake there and just kind of corrects on it. And it's never fun to throw in a headwind, but this is certainly not the hole you really want to be throwing into a direct headwind.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like a very common wind on this hole too, as in the practice round. And also during this round, there was a headwind. And Jakub going with a very very low overstable disc there. You can see he hammered it low and flat and still getting the left finish. That's a really good shot there.
A little drone replay for you guys. Love to see that. And Silver gonna go with the backhand here. A little wide out of the hand, but it skirts those trees, and he gets the green flag.
Yeah, a little sketchy there, but luckily has enough hyzer angle to push it to the left after the tree hit. Paul here really just trying to get some distance, but not anything huge, and just be in the middle of the fairway. Looks like from there he should have a long approach, but an approach to the green. The third shot plays pretty well downhill, so you don't have to get a lot of distance with your second here. As we see, Øyvind unfortunately hitting the one bushy tree in the middle of the fairway and not really getting that ideal position for the third.
And Jakub throwing his setup shot there. That's a little conservative, but he'll be in position probably a little over 100 meters to the pin.
Yeah, anything on top of that small hill that you can see is pretty much okay. As we see Silver unfortunately rolling to the right side OB from the middle of the fairway. That's a bad break there, but once again showing a very common thing on this course. High-speed driver with a lot of hyzer angle causes a lot of rollaways, and that's yet another example of it.
Yeah, that one was brutal. And Øyvind kind of displaying nice forehand power there. Paul probably 110 meters into the pin here.
Yeah, going with the forehand, pulls it to the left, and this is very scary for the rollaway. He could be rolling towards OB here. It looks like he's doing it, and just stays safe. That's a very good break, hitting two of those rocks and staying safe. I'm pretty sure without the rocks he would have been OB there.
Yeah, that was a fortunate little checkup to stay safe right there for Paul. And yeah, Jakub gets the ground play there, keeps him from the pure death putt. He's there at 6 meters now.
Yeah, really good ground play there from Jakub, really utilizing that hard-packed green that we have on this hole, playing the skip. Silver with, for him, a very regular forehand approach. He makes easy work of that. You can see he's thrown that shot 10,000 times at least.
Yeah, this is just one of those holes here at Krokhol that you played and you don't forget it. Very memorable all the way through.
Yes, and as Paul has a look for the par still, unfortunately missing it to the low cage, but luckily didn't have any sort of rollaway there, since this is another green, as we said, that causes a lot of rollaways if you hit the basket or miss it completely.
And Jakub carding the birdie there, lone birdie on the card. And Paul is going to card just his second bogey of the round. Another chink in the armor. Moves back to 5 under. And we head up the hill to hole 17. It is another beauty here. Just 115 meters. Descends 10 meters from the tee to the green. So this one probably plays closer to 100 meters. Distance isn't the issue though, Elias, is it? It's the OB that is everywhere, and if you miss this, you're headed straight to a pretty tricky drop zone.
Yeah, that's very true. It's so far downhill that the hole plays in such a short manner that you can pretty much throw any disc in your bag. Just very important to not turn it over to the right, and many of the players are looking to move the disc a little bit from right to left to hopefully fade either left of the basket or be just parked, because the right side OB is pretty much 3 meters from the basket, so it's really close, and it makes the putting on this hole also very nerve-wracking, as we see Jakub going with that exact shot, hammering it towards the basket and fading a little bit out to the left. That's a good play.
Yep, it's a good play. That is the widest part of the green there. The OB is maybe 2 meters from the pin on the right side.
As Øyvind is playing really close to the right side OB, just stay safe. And well, a good thing with playing with the right side OB is that you're pretty much parked if you miss it. As we see Silver going with a beautiful flip up backhand, just a perfect shot. Insane touch with the backhand from a player that is not particularly known for his backhand, but still has a great one.
And Paul has been dialed with this Luna all day, and this looks no different. Just gets it up to flat. Whoo! That is a beautiful disc off shape right there.
Yeah, as we take another look from the drone cam here, you can see he put the severe hyzer angle on it and flipped it up just so slightly, getting that left finish at the end, still pushing forwards. That's a great display of touch there. And this is a very scary putt from Jakub. The OB is only 3 meters behind the basket, and I believe he actually does find the OB. That's really unfortunate.
And that's a big moment for his round. That was to get him to 2 under. Now he's headed back to even. And we got a birdie from Øyvind. He moves to 5. He's in contention. And you can see deflated Jakub there. That is unfortunate. 2-stroke swing for the guy from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, unfortunate bogey, but easily happens on this hole. As we see 3 of the other guys taking textbook birdies on this hole. It's certainly, I think it's either a birdie or a bogey this hole, most likely. Because the OB is so close, and it's still a pretty easy shot to get to the basket. But if you miss it, you're certainly getting a bogey.
So, very unique here. We head back up the hill to the tee of 18, and we're actually teeing over the basket of 17. You're really never going to see it, but honestly, it's not an issue. It totally plays, and this is a very demanding finishing hole. You really want to stretch your tee shot as far as you can, because we're going to see just how small this green really is. You can see the rocks there mark the out of bounds, and of course there's a little hazard bunker right in front of the pin. It makes you just really overthink this approach. This tee shot's pretty open. It descends quite a bit, 12 meters plus from tee to the fairway, and there is some OB left.
Yes, as we see Øyvind going for a bit of a safer shot here, not really going for the biggest distance possible, but rather going with a safe hyzer to the middle of the fairway, and that's still pretty far. I think he only has about 80 meters to the basket from there, so that's a good 150 meter drive. But you can get further on this hole. Let's see if Silver goes with more of a distance line. As he does, great turning drive, hopefully fading back just so slightly at the end. As he does.
Kareem's off the rock, and he's just short of the 150 meter sign, and we've already said it, but Silver's really been working on that backhand.
Yeah, that was a really good looking rip there, and guess a good break. Let's see if Paul can get some good distance of this tee. Also going with a bit of a hyzer release, trying to play that safe in the middle of the fairway, and that's a pretty far shot to another 150 meter drive there.
Yeah, flipping up that straighter force of his, and Jakub gonna go with the stable rive here. A little bit of Annie, cracks it over. And this is ideal. He's gonna be cruising past the 150 meter sign. That is as good as you can really do.
Yeah, big drive and perfectly in the middle. He's only going to have about 60 to 65 meters to the basket from there. And this approach really plays for any low-speed disc that you can land very softly on the green. You really don't want to have a lot of speed going on there. You can see Silver going with the harp, so low-speed discs. Goes a little bit long, but as you can see, that is completely okay. There's a little bit of room behind the basket that you can land on. So that's a good shot there, inside the island.
Standstill stiletto here for Øyvind. Hits early, and that is rolling. That needs to stop. Curl. No way. And this is an island, guys, so he does not get to putt from there. He's going to have to throw from, 25 meters short of the island?
Yeah, it's a jump putt approach from the edge of the mainland. As we can see, Paul going with a very soft shot here, trying to control that flat angle to the green, and just perfect precision there. Perfect speed control. Hits it on the edge of the bullseye, and it's going to be a birdie finish from Paul to go 7 under on the round.
Yeah, pretty clean golf today from McBeth, and oh man, Jakub also rolling out of bounds, and what a tough finish for his round. What could have been there, Elias, if he goes birdie, now he's looking at bogey.
Yeah, very true. That's a disappointing finish, but also a very common finish. Many players doing the same on this course. The last 2 holes are really demanding, as Jakub and Øyvind both just laying up for their bogeys, unfortunately. And Silver, with the hazard bunker behind the basket, doesn't entertain the idea of running it. That's a smart play there.
And this has been a very entertaining round of disc golf. It's one of my personal favorite courses that I've ever played. And after watching this coverage and commentating on it for you guys, it's honestly one of my favorite courses to watch disc golf at as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly a beautiful course, a challenging course too, and very smart design here. A lot of great holes. As we see our players finish the round, Paul McBeth 7 under, Øyvind 4 under, Silver 2 under, and Jakub, unfortunately, with the tough finish going +1 on the round.
Taking a look at that iconic silver Lätt delivery on that forehand there, and taking a look at our top 10 here. Paul McBeth 7 under is going to tie the hot round alongside Bradley Williams and our guy Elias Luukkonen, who was actually 8 under heading into the 18th, ends up carding the bogey. How'd you feel about that 7 under?
Man, that was one of the better rounds of the year for sure, and excited to see you guys on the lead card tomorrow. And rounding out the card, we got Øyvind. It's going to be an exciting round too. Hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us here on MDG Media. These guys are working hard around the clock. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave myself and Elias a comment. Let us know what you think of our style. It's our first time working together. From Elias Luukkonen and Nate Perkins, we will see you tomorrow for round 2 from EUROTOUR stop number 3.